One of the main questions which INO is going to answer, the new experiment which is planned in India, is something called, it's a deep question about whether neutrino masses are hierarchical or invert hierarchical. It's a very important question because it has implications for CP violation, other fundamental properties of nature. So the CP violation is something which is a very fundamental property of nature, which is, if you want, responsible for why we are here, meaning how the matter is formed. Okay. Now this why the matter is more produced in nature compared to antimatter is a very important question, and this is linked to CP violation. Now this has been tested very well in the hadronic sector, like quarks, mesons, and in that sector it has been very well known. But in the neutrino or the leptonic sector, like electron, muon, tau, and the corresponding neutrino sector, this question is not answered. And if it comes up within the time and everything, which it can compete with other experiments essentially, can really try to answer this kind of question, okay, where we stand.
The problem with the neutrino is that it's also electrically neutral. If it is a charged particle, we have studied earlier from Millikan oil drop experiment and all these things in high school, that an electronic charge was already, mass were separately measured by Thomson and by Millikan already more than 100 years ago. Because it's a neutral particle and it interacts so weakly that all the experiments are only indirect, and you need very large materials and enough so-called events have to be recorded by the detector before you can confidently say what the mass of the neutrino is. In the year 2015, all we know is that the neutrino masses are not zero. We actually don't know their individual values. Even today we do not know what their individual values are. We know values of some of the mass differences. There are three types of neutrinos. We know what is the mass difference between two of them, but we don't know their individual values. Right. So the INO is aimed at detecting these individual masses and see how they are ordered in nature, which is what Sudhir talked about. Whether they are ordered in the way you expect, the normal hierarchy, or there is an inversion in the kind of ordering of these masses.
So the INO facility, as far as I understand, I am not an experimentalist, I am a theorist essentially, is just an iron candle. It is just 50 tons of iron. It's just 50 tons of iron which is sliced, and in between there are the sensitive detectors which see the tracking of a muon. Okay, it has just electronics and ion, nothing else. A lot of electronics and a tracking material which essentially tells you that whether the muon has passed through it or not, and what is the energy of the muon, okay, what is the sign of the muon, and there will be a magnetic field because it's an ion, you can make a magnetic field out of it essentially. You can apply a magnetic field. So they are going to exist even without These atmospheric neutrinos are produced continuously. They are produced continuously. Even as we talk now, there are a bunch of atmospheric neutrinos passing through our tongue. They are passing through me, they are passing through you, everybody. What INO is going to do is we cannot detect them. I cannot detect it because a simple instrument cannot detect it. Because these are very weakly interacting things. So they don't interact very fast. So what we are doing is build a beautiful experiment just to detect them, find out their energies, and what are their masses roughly. As far as INO is concerned, you don't have to worry about radiation at all. As a telescope, yeah, just a telescope. It is some iron calorimeter sitting there looking at regular atmospherically produced neutrinos.
Could you tell me?
So again, let me repeat again. These are cosmic rays which are hitting the air molecules and so producing neutrinos, and INO is only going to detect those neutrinos.
Okay.
So there is no radiation involved. So there is no fresh source of radiation or something which is being constructed or being created there. I don't know where this radiation comes from because radiation doesn't exist. There is no nuclear radiation there. There is no nuclear explosion which is going to happen. There is no nuclear research which is going to happen.
Okay.
So it's like there is a huge bunch of neutrinos already existing in Theni right now, and right in Bangalore also. And you are putting a detector there in Theni because it sounds well, and there is a hill there which can act like a filter, and you are just seeing those neutrinos. That's it.
The name observatory itself is conveying something. It's really a telescope. Yeah. Often observatory is used in the context of Palomar Observatory or the Keck Observatory, that it is just a device or an instrument that just sits and looks. So this idea is that this is a neutrino telescope. It itself is not going to manufacture anything. It merely detects neutrinos produced in cosmological or in astrophysical sources which are present anyway.
Cosmic rays are these rays which come from interstellar medium. The Earth is bombarded all through all the 4 pi directions every day, every minute, every second by these cosmic rays which are predominantly protons. 99% of these cosmic rays are protons. These are extragalactic protons which come in various energies. So they come with energies as low as GeV, sub-GeV and all the way up to multi-GeV. But their fluxes is very small for higher GeV. Okay, meaning GeV, if you want to give an idea, it's the energy of a proton. The mass of a proton, if you convert it to energy, that is essentially the GeV energy. Okay, so if you have so many, these cosmic rays are constantly bombarding it. Now you want to detect neutrinos, but the detector could be seeing other particles also coming from the cosmic rays essentially. Okay, you want to see how when these cosmic rays come and hit the air molecules, they will produce a bunch of neutrinos also. These are the neutrinos we are interested in. INO is going to see only those neutrinos. It's not going to see any new source of neutrinos or something. So this bunch of neutrinos which are produced when these cosmic rays come and hit the air molecules, like all these molecules in the air, they produce a bunch of neutrinos, then you see them. Now there could be other background material which comes out. And the detector should be able to remove all those background material. It becomes very hard to remove all those material. So you go under a shower under a kilometer depth. If you typically go under a kilometer depth of Earth, all the rest of the junk will just disappear and only neutrinos will come. Neutrinos can travel through several kilotons of material.
Okay.
Typically speaking. So it is a rare interaction of the neutrino that the INO will pick up. While other more energetic particles, they will have many more interactions and then they will produce a lot of activity in your detector, and you don't want that. The so-called backgrounds have to be eliminated. So you want to go to an environment where all the things you do not want to see are removed. So it's like shielding. The mountain provides the shielding of all the signals that you do not want to see. And if you are in an environment quiet, far away, where all these things are absorbed by the surrounding rock, you are left with only those particles that you would like to detect. And even those detection rates are very small. That is why you have to have a very large detector for a large number for a long time, so that enough events can take place which you can record in the detector.
Yeah, the mountain is really like a filter, like he said, it's like a shielding. So it's like a filter removing unwanted stuff. It's like in particle physics we call it as background.
So when a neutrino comes, a neutrino can get converted into a charged particle by interacting with other matter in the detector. So actually you don't see the neutrino itself, but you see the converted charged particle. Then the other charge is absorbed by the detected material and produces other debris, which may also be detected. So it is through the interaction that you detect the neutrino. And from the characteristics and properties of these reaction products, you make an inference about what the mass of the neutrino was. It's an indirect measurement of the mass.
It's currently planned for about, we expect that it should be running at least for 10 years. Okay. And then we hope that the detector will not be, we can increase it, double the size of the detector and run it for another 10 years. So we hope we should have enough data, because as I said, as he was also emphasizing, Anant was also emphasizing that we need a big detector for a long time to even observe some substantial amount of events. It's not that we are going to see so many events essentially. Okay, so we have to really see it for at least 10-15 years, and so we collect enough number of events to make any physics case.
You see, compared to any of the astrophysical and cosmic sources, whatever we produce on the Earth will be nothing. It will be minuscule compared to anything that is coming from the cosmos, to which we are subjected to anyway. The thing is that even a nuclear reactor, because of the nuclear reactions, produces neutrinos. In the same way, the sun is continuously producing neutrinos and in enormous numbers. So the question is whether you can do interesting experiments with a source of neutrinos which is a controlled source of neutrinos. Now the neutrinos coming from the cosmos are not in our control. Most of it is taking place in solar interiors, very deep inside stars. And a lot of the physics there is modeled by us, but we do not have a direct probe. But we have a fairly good idea. Now in in reactors, one knows the physics to some extent, and the properties of the neutrinos are reasonably well known at the birthplace of the neutrinos. So you can ask the question, what happens to the properties of the neutrinos 300 kilometers away, 500 kilometers away, 800 kilometers away. These experiments have already been done in Japan and in the USA, and they have led to a tremendous wealth of information. It tests the picture of so-called neutrino oscillations at very high precision, very impressive results, and it is first-rate research, and it has not caused harm to anybody at all. These energies carried by these neutrinos are very, very low energy neutrinos. They are what are called MEV neutrinos, very low energies, and the fluxes are also small, and they are not going to cause harm to anybody. If you have a long baseline, for instance, neutrinos produced, let us say, in the USA, and they pass through the Earth, and they are directed at the INO, they pass through the interior of the Earth. So they can be a probe of the properties of the interior of the Earth. Now we have models for how the Earth looks, that it has a molten iron core, and then it has a mantle, and then it has a crust. Now all this what we learn in textbooks, but many of these models are also already facing challenges, because as human beings dig deeper into the Earth, they are finding that these models are very crude. So you have to find some way of probing the interior, and physicists have thought perhaps we can use neutrinos. And if indeed there is a molten core, then these neutrinos passing through the molten core, during their flight, their properties may alter, and we will be able to detect them. Now you cannot study science without all this, and it is a probe, but it is not going to be harmful to human beings in any way. These are not collimated beams or anything like that. A neutrino, a reactor produces neutrinos in all directions. You can use accelerators and have a beam of particles in the accelerator, and then those may decay and produce neutrinos, but these are all very small fluxes. The advantage scientifically is that their properties are known at birth, and it would be nice to know the properties at the detector end also and make the correlation. That is the scientific interest.
Yeah, I just like to add that even Earth produces a lot of neutrinos. Yeah. They are called geoneutrinos.
Yes.
Okay? Neutrinos interact very weakly.
Okay.
So they are the least destructive particles you can think of. So they interact so weakly that and the flux is, so if you, I don't think it can be weaponized right now, essentially there's no possible, but it can be useful to detect if there is a rogue atom bomb or something. It can be used for security purposes. If you have understand how to detect neutrinos very well, in principle, you can try to figure out if there is a rogue atomic explosion somewhere else. Okay? So you can use it to find out if there is somebody who is building an atom bomb without telling you, or somebody without it in the government or something. It can be used for security purposes rather than trying to build a bomb. Okay? In India, we are lagging very much behind high energy physics, experimental physics. The entire world, as he emphasized again, G20, we are in G20. We should really be at the cutting edge of technology. And INO would be a demonstration that we are as good as anybody else in the world who can do really cutting edge science, almost lead to Nobel Prize discoveries. So neutrino physics led to at least 3 Nobel Prizes. Okay? So we should expect something similar also should happen. That kind of science should happen even in India essentially.
Besides doing all this, it is also a technological challenge to build an experiment of this size. It is also showcasing our technological abilities, to benchmark our instrumentation, to train our students in the art of doing science. Many of them will get a degree here, and then they will do other things. They will work in other sectors of the industry. So PhD and all is training, and you also work in a fundamental area of physics.
Research in high energy physics has always been at the edge of technological development. Okay? It is very challenging to do high energy physics experiment because they challenge the latest technologies. So it has always gone hand in hand in developing latest technologies. So for example, the CERN LHC or any of the things, and we don't have such kind of research in India. Unless we really generate such kind of research in India, INO is just a starting point, I hope, essentially. And then we can expect really technological advances happening even in our own country. Actually.
Pure research is something that India has defined for itself as one of its goals right from 1947. So there is nothing new for me to add. There has already been a case and we have done well. Today some of the brightest and the best minds in the world are people of Indian origin, and this has to continue. Why should we lose the lead that we have? And it is only one of many projects that India is planning. There are also other telescopes being planned, very large telescopes. We want solar observatories. We want to do research in plasma physics and biology. We want to expand. So it's an all-round growth. So it should be encouraged by government and society so that our future generations will have something. If we stop everything now, what will our children do? What will our grandchildren do? So it is an investment into the future also. See, if we are interested in public health, we have many more hazards that come from common and conventional sources. For instance, public health, hygiene, pollution, vehicular pollution, industrial pollution, forest fires, wood fires that our poor people are forced to use because they have no access to modern fuels. Or if you are worried about our neighbors, we should be worried about polluting industries in Bangladesh or in Nepal, or we should be worried about forest fires in Indonesia. If there is somebody who wants to do mischief to us, they will not be using neutrinos. Take it from me. So there is this misplaced fear. Just because neutrinos are subatomic particles and they can be used to do great damage, it is far easier to do damage with known materials, and it has been done in the past, and we should worry about those things. Here it is only a scientific endeavor, as we have repeatedly stated. It is to test fundamental theories of nature, what are masses, and as a benchmarking of our technological abilities to execute large projects. In India, Kolar Goldfields was where the Tata Institute and others had a fairly biggish project. But that is already many decades ago.
And we discovered these neutrinos for the first time in the world.
Yes.
Neutrinos were discovered in India.
In the Kolar Goldfield
in 1960s, and we didn't make a mark on it. It's a pity that we couldn't do any mark on it, because that's where the major breakthroughs in neutrino physics happened. These were detected in India and we couldn't make any mark.
Because we did not have enough manpower and
we didn't have enough manpower
and
detectors.
I only have best wishes to all my colleagues who have taken up such a project. I wish them well, and I hope that they meet all their benchmarks and also their time schedules, because as you know, in our country, doing anything in time is not an easy thing. So they need luck on their side in order to execute their scientific vision on a timely basis.
The only thing I worried about is, I was earlier worried about manpower. India doesn't have enough trained manpower to deal with such a big endeavor, physics endeavor. You need a lot of people. Most of these kind of experiments are international collaborations. As you know, CERN has 5,000 scientists in one experiment. Okay, these are really big collaborations, trained manpower, which need to do very complicated experiments. So I thought that, can we really pull it off? It will be a real challenge to show the world. It's like something as good as the Mars orbiter or the Mangalyaan or something. It's in a similar scale. I would put it, if Mangalyaan is a success, I would say that I hope even INO should be a success and should lead to something very good research.
There is no reason to fear anything, as based on everything that we have said. We hope that people's whatever fears are settled. Of course, they are welcome to discuss. It is a free country. People should express their fears, but they should obviously, be willing to hear the answers coming from qualified persons.
It is, whatever is planned is very good for India. It's something which is very positive thing. And if it works out, it will be very good for us. And it's nothing to do fear at all actually. These are particles which are harmless, which won't do any harm to any of you or your children or anybody else essentially. Okay, this is going to be really breakthrough science, good science essentially. And if you understand it, it's very clean science. There's no nuclear explosion, nothing, absolutely. So you should have no fears at all actually. And you should support the project. That's what I think.
Thanks for the thanks.
Thank you.